Okay, now I want to discuss the game between Ruger and Gebhard, played in Dresden in 1915. Ruger was white, Gebhard was black. So the game started off by e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, and bishop c5. We have a gioco piano, so an Italian game, and I've covered this in my other lectures on the Italian game, so I'm not going to cover the moves in detail. And also we've seen a couple of gioco pianos in the annotated games. And then Ruger continued c3, which I think technically this starts the Greco variation or line of the gioco piano. I'm not too sure. It might be white's fifth move, which is d4 coming up. But then black plays knight f6, and now black plays d4. So either c3 or d4 is the Greco, the technical Greco line. I'm not too sure. I'd have to look it up. But here, this is where the first interesting point takes place. In past games, we've seen black move the bishop back to b6, but now this move is not very good at all for black. Black is practically forced to take this pawn. The reason being, let's say black does play bishop to b6. What's the consequences for black? Well, now white will just take the pawn, and now you're saying, well, now the knight here has to move, and maybe it should move to here. But actually, if the knight moves there, then the queen will just move to here, where it will attack the knight and also threaten mate right here. So not a good move for black to take this pawn right here. Another move would be, that looks sensible, as g4, but then white just plays bishop takes f7, check, king takes f7, knight to g5, check, and then after the king moves, probably the f8, the queen will take on g4, and white is up 2 pawns. So you can see that moving the bishop back is not an option. So black is forced to take this pawn here. Then white will take back, so attacking the bishop, controlling the center. And now the bishop will go to b4, giving check, and the knight will come to c3. And this is all standard line in the Greco for the gioco piano. So nothing really new here yet. And now black on the 7th move plays a quiet move, which actually is not good at all. Black decides to castle, and this will turn out not to be good for black. But first, let me just show you the normal continuation, just to review it again. For the Greco, is instead of castling, which I haven't shown, black will actually take this pawn on e4. So white is actually going to give up a pawn for an attack, and then white castles. And if you're watching this game for the first time, or this line, you're thinking, wow, black just won a pawn, and now looks like black's going to get another pawn. But that's okay. White's going to give up this material for a strong attack. So the continuation would normally go, black would take on c3, b takes c3, bishop takes, and you're going, well, black's up 2 pawns. But now white actually has these very strong moves. Queen to here, which is threatening along here to win the pawn and also attacking the bishop. So it's going to get a pawn back with a strong attack, or white could actually play bishop to a3, controlling this diagonal, preventing black from castling. And now the king's stuck in the center, and most of white's pieces can come out quickly. The rook can come to here, giving check. It's going to look nasty for black. So white gives up some material for a strong attack. But instead, in the game we're watching, knight to c3 by white, black castles. Too quiet of a move. Because now what white's going to do is white has this center, has two center pawns. If you look at it, it has 3 pieces developed. This bishop can easily be developed. We can easily castle. So the problem is white has too much control of the center. It has too much of an advantage. Black needed to do something about developing and the center, which we'll try to do. So, but first white is actually going to, well, I was going to say maybe instead of castling, black could have moved the d pawn. But now white's going to move the d pawn and chase the knight away. And this knight really doesn't have any good place to go to. I mean, there doesn't look good, here doesn't look too good, so it actually moves it about to the only spot that it looks okay, is e7. And now white is going to play e5, now forcing this knight to run away. But black's actually going to move it to e4. Should just capture the pawn if it was going to move it there anyways. And if you note, obviously white cannot take the knight because it would put the king in check. And now white moves the queen to c2, and this move actually does 3 things. One, it attacks the knight here. It defends this knight, and actually it's attacking this pawn. So long-term goals is it's going to be attacking this pawn, but it's actually doing 3 things. And now the knight, black's knight on e4 has nothing better to do. We don't know where else really to go. So black exchanges it off, and now white takes back with the pawn. Sort of obeying the rule of capturing towards the center, but also forcing this bishop to move. So black has to waste time moving the bishop, and the bishop really has 2 squares. It can go to a5 or c5, and on a5 it's just really not doing anything active, so it'll go to c5, where it's at least attacking this pawn right here and somewhat on this, back on this central diagonal right here. So it's more active than placing it on a5. And now, what should white do? Well, if you look at the components of black's sort of king safety, where I talked about, flight squares, pawn shield, defenders versus attackers. Generally, when the king is castled, you're going to have to inflict some type of weakness into the king's position. And we've seen many games to where where white or black has lured this this rook pawn to move forward 1, where then it has become a target. So this pawn will move forward 1, and then white or black attacks it. So that's what white is now going to do. It's going to sort of force black to make a weakening move around the king, and it does this by playing knight to g5. And the question is, well, how should black respond? It looks like I'm running out of time for this lecture, so what I'm going to do is ask you to look, and what move would you make? Then I'm going to continue it in the next lecture.